Three spine-chilling true stories of haunted end-of-summer discoveries that will terrify you. It was a seemingly perfect summer afternoon, calm and quiet, the kind where kids were meant to play freely in the warm sunlit streets of a sleepy Ohio neighborhood. But lurking just under the surface, shadows flickered, and whispers echoed in the air. Three stories of cursed playgrounds might make you think twice before letting your children venture out again. For some playgrounds hide sinister secrets, secrets that can swallow whole the souls of the unwary. Just beyond the white picket fences and freshly mowed lawns, Laura, a recently widowed mother, stepped out into the daylight with her two children, Ethan, 10, and Mia, 7. Along the path, their laughter rang like tiny bells, but for Laura, each note felt more like a dagger to her heart. She clutched her chest, fighting against the swell of grief that haunted her since her husband's passing. But today was different. Today she wanted to distract them. As they strolled through their perfectly manicured neighborhood, the dread from the past lingered like a smog that refused to lift. That S when they stumbled upon at a playground, wild with overgrown weeds and rusting chains. It looked like a relic of joy, forgotten by time. The swings creaked softly, beckoning. Rumors whispered across the neighborhood about this place. Parents warned their kids to stay away, stories of laughter that rang through the night, children going missing in the blink of an eye. A chill ran down Laura's spine as she watched Mia dash toward the swings, hair flying, giggles erupting like fireworks. "Mom, look!" Ethan shouted, his eyes wide with delight. Despite her instincts screaming to pull them back, she felt a twinge of guilt, an overwhelming urge to let them be kids. Their laughter mingled with the hum of the cicadas, filling her with an unsettling mix of joy and dread. Day after day, they returned to the playground, drawn deeper into its rotting beauty. As sunsets fell, shadows danced across the ground, and whispers fluttered on the wind. But the worst was yet to come. At night, the little things began. Ethan's baseball inexplicably rolled across the floor to rest ominously against his bed. A doll turned to face the window, a presence that unsettled her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Their neighbor, Mr. Holloway, seemed friendly enough, a man with warm cookies and a smile that lingered a little too long. But there was something unsettling about him, as if he was far too invested in the children. Bound by curiosity, Laura started to dig deeper, unearthing a sinister history tied to him and the playground. Dark tales whispered of generations haunted by the shadows of that very place, leaving her blood running cold. As the days grew darker, the laughter faded into the echo of silence, and Laura's heart raced at every creak of the house. The whispers intensified, and on the last night of summer break, fear struck deep. Alone in her bed, the icy breath of something unknown blew through the window, chilling her bones. A cold voice, drowning in shadows, whispered her name, drawing her towards the window. Outside, under the flickering streetlight, stood Mr. Holloway, eyes gleaming like obsidian, a grin spreading across his face as laughter echoed from the dark playground. What he knew about the playground, and what he wanted from her family, began to unravel into a nightmarish reality that she couldn't escape. The night draped itself around Laura like a suffocating cloak, and the darkness outside morphed into a landscape of nightmares. Her heart thundered, pounding against her chest as she stared at Mr. Holloway. Seconds stretched into eternities. His grin widened, revealing a row of unnaturally sharp teeth. She swallowed hard, the air thickening, catching in her throat. "Mama!" Mia's voice startled her, breaking the spell. Laura whipped around to see her daughter standing in the doorway, clutching her beloved stuffed bunny. Just like that, the fear pulsed brighter, almost blinding her. "What's wrong?" Mia asked, eyes wide, glancing from her mother to the window. "Nothing, sweetie. Go back to bed." But the command felt weak, hollow against the heaviness in the room. She wanted to run to her daughter, to pull her away from the window and barricade them together under the covers. But her feet felt like lead. Mr. Holloway took a slow step forward, shadows from the streetlight dancing behind him. "They're waiting for you, Laura. It's time." His voice rolled like distant thunder, crackling with a sinister undertone that sent chills down her spine. Her mind raced. What did he mean? What waited for them? Panic threatened to rupture her composure. "Get inside, Mia. Now," she yelled, her desperation rising. She flung the window shut, slamming it hard enough that the glass rattled. The noise echoed like a gunshot, but she didn't care. She turned back to her daughter, breathless and trembling. "What is happening?" Ethan's small voice trembled from the shadows of the hallway. He emerged, rubbing sleep from his eyes, and Laura felt a fresh wave of panic as she caught a glimpse of something eerie in his gaze, a mirroring of fear, a flash of recognition. "I'll explain later. Just stay close." Laura gathered both of her children in her arms, her heart racing faster than it ever had. They stumbled back from the window, and in the murkiness of the night, she sensed the heaviness creeping back in, like a fading echo of laughter. The playground calls once more, an insidious invitation she couldn't ignore. Even as she fought to keep calm for her children, Steph felt a tug towards the night, a whisper pulling her mind. It was the laughter. The haunting laughter that lingered at the edge of her memory, far too sweet and innocent, mixed with something far more sinister. What was it humming? What promises did it hold? "Mama, I'm scared," Mia whimpered, her small hands gripping Laura's shirt as if it were a lifeline. Suddenly, a chilling realization entrenched itself deep within Laura. It wasn't just Mr. Holloway who posed a threat. The playground itself was alive, its very being entwined with something dark, monstrous. Tales of misfortunes, tales of children who didn't come back. Were they true? As the shadows flickered and the whispers grew louder, promising secrets she dared not fathom, Laura clutched her children tighter. Outside, something shifted, rustling in the overgrown bushes just beyond her streetlight-esque grasp. Eyes stared back at them cold, unblinking, waiting. Then a voice, high and childlike, echoed despite the distance. "Come and play." Laura squeezed her children tighter, eyes darting to the door. What did it want? Could they hide? Could there be a way out? The ground trembled beneath her feet, propelling her towards an inescapable choice, a choice that could cost them everything, a choice that might seal their fate forever. In those moments, with her world unraveling, Laura finally grasped one undeniable truth. Whatever darkness was brewing in that playground, it had intentions, and it was starving for her family. But then, a low growl pierced through the silence, sending shivers down her spine. Laura's heart sank, dread pooling in her stomach as she realized that laughter was not just calling for her children. It was calling for her. Did she dare go back to confront Mr. Holloway and the nightmare they had unwittingly invited into their lives? The moment hung thick with dread, almost tangible. Time warped around Laura, wrapping her in its oppressive embrace, as if it were a creature itself, waiting to strike. The shadows at the window pulsed and writhed, feeding off her fear, while the low growl transformed into an unsettling serenade of whispers. "Mom." Ethan's voice trembled, pulling her from the mirage of terror. "What is out there?" She felt the weight of his question, heavy, insistent, and clinging like smoke. She couldn't look outside. None of them should be anywhere near that window. "Stay close," she murmured, heart racing. It was all she could do to distract them, to shield them from the nightmare creeping closer. "Mommy, I want to go home," Mia whimpered, her voice quaking. Laura's mind spiraled. Home. The word felt foreign now, detached from safety. In their small house, the walls had always whispered familiarity. But now, they echoed with something else, an invitation to despair. "We are home, sweetheart. Right here." She held them closer, trying to convince herself as much as them. The growl morphed again, drifting into an echo of laughter. Chilling, hollow, as if the world itself mocked her fears. Her mind flashed back to days spent at the playground. Laughter flowed freely. Children ran carelessly, without a hint of what lurked behind the swings. The very ground they once played on thrummed with a sinister pulse, and now that same joy was twisted into a mournful dirge. "Mom." Ethan's voice sliced through her thoughts. "I think I saw someone over there." He pointed hesitantly into the dark beyond the window. Frozen, Laura's breath caught. A figure shimmered by the fence, a silhouette just beyond the light's reach. It stood unnaturally still, watching. It couldn't possibly be real, could it? Laura blinked, willing her brain to make sense of the illusions, the darkness, and yet it remained waiting. The laughter grew louder, echoing through her bones. The voice of a child? Or something else entirely? Mom! Mia cried, trying to pull away from Laura's grip, her small face etched with confusion and fear. I want to play? No. Laura shouted, panic exploding in her chest. You must stay here. Don't look, don't listen. She tightened her hold, but the shadows danced around them, taunting. With every breath, she felt the edges of her sanity fraying, giving way to obliteration. Then, the figure stepped out from the shadows, the playtime laughter turning dark, swirling with malice. It was Mr. Holloway, but something in his gaze had changed. No longer merely sinister, he now exuded an insatiable hunger. A creature cloaked in disguise. It's time to join the others. His voice now sang, sweet like the syrup of a dream turned nightmare. They're waiting. Laura's heart raced. A sick feeling churned in her stomach. What awaited them in that playground? What had awaited those that came before? She staggered back, her mind struggling to function, frantically searching for an escape. Run, she screamed. Yet where to? The shadows seeped into the corners of the room. The door felt miles away, and the voice of the children called, luring, tantalizing. Mama, I want to go. Mia pleaded, pulling at her mother's shirt. Laura's chest tightened. Her instincts clawed at her to protect them, but her thoughts turned murky with doubt. Was leaving the only way? Or would it lead them into a deeper darkness? Just then, a crash erupted from the back door, the sound of splintering wood. A rush of cold air blasted into the room, causing the lights to flicker and dim. Help us! A chorus of voices echoed, children's voices, mingling with laughter and longing. Stay behind me, Laura yelled, positioning herself in front of Mia and Ethan as she faced the door. Footsteps thundered outside, an ominous sound rolling closer. The figure of Mr. Holloway morphed into the darkness, merging with the screech of branches and the distant echoes from the playground. With every heartbeat, the air thickened, and the whispers grew more chaotic. What should we do? Ethan's voice quivered, spreading a fresh wave of ice through her veins. She swallowed hard, every instinct telling her to flee. But she also knew there was nowhere to hide. Behind her, darkness thrummed a warning, urging action. Together, she breathed, threading her fingers through their small hands. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. With new resolve, she prepared to confront the unknown. But before she could move, laughter erupted from the abyss outside, childlike shrieks of joy, dipped in shadows. Playtime's just begun, and suddenly, it became clear. The playground wasn't just calling her children, it was summoning her too. Could she resist? Just how deep would this nightmare go? The door shook violently as the footsteps drew closer, each thud reverberating through Laura's bones. She gripped Mia and Ethan's hands tighter, her heart pounding a frantic beat, a percussion of dread. The whispered laughter transformed into a chaotic cacophony, blending with the pounding on the door. Whatever waited outside was relentless. Mom, Ethan cried, pulling at her. We can't let it in. The urgency in his voice pierced through her fear. I know, buddy. Just stay close. She darted her eyes around the small room, searching for anything they could use as a barrier. The kitchen chairs? A table? But before she could decide, the door bucked again, splintering wood slashing through the air. Suddenly, the howling wind swept into the room, swirling around them with an ice-cold embrace, tossing papers and trinkets like confetti. Shadows danced wildly across the walls, stretching and contorting into grotesque shapes. Dark forms seemed to rise from the corners, whispering her name in haunting tones. Laura, join us. No, she screamed, the defiance ripping from her throat. Stay back. The door shuddered again, as if something powerful was trying to push its way in. A sliver of daggers glinted through the crack, a sharp reminder of the danger threatening to consume them. Sweat dripped down her forehead, mingling with growing panic. The shadows surged forward, breathing life into the wooden floorboards, that eerie pulse resonating from the playground just beyond. Help us! The voices rose, a sinister choir beckoning, alluring. They held promises of innocence, but she could hear the lie beneath the surface, an invitation drowned in despair. Ethan squeezed her hand, his fingers trembling. Mom, what if they really need help? No, you mustn't listen. We can't help them. Laura's mind raced with dark realizations. They're not like us. They were taken, Ethan. Don't you see? They want us too. Before she could catch her breath, a bang like thunder reverberated in the room, and the door gave way, splintering outward in a shower of wood and chaos. A figure came hurtling through the threshold, the silhouette shifting, expanding in the dim light, a dark mass determined to enter their sanctuary. Mom! Mia shrieked, fear bleeding through her voice, eyes wide, filled with terror. The figure came forward, its features twisting into mockery. Mr. Holloway grinned with malicious glee, eyes wide and glimmering like dark pools. The shadows flowed behind him, a tide of black that threatened to consume everything. It's time for play, he sang, his words syrupy smooth, yet dripping with malice. Join us, Laura. Your children are meant to play. No. Laura pulled her kids closer, desperation clawing at her sanity. We're not playing. In that moment, something deep within stirred, a flicker of strength igniting amidst her terror. Get back, she screamed, pushing the children behind her, stepping forward with newfound resolve. Mia trembled against her leg, crying softly, while Ethan crouched low, clenching his eyes shut. But Laura felt rage rise within, fueled by fear. You want to take them. She lanced her arm forward, aiming for the entity. As if in response, the shadows surged, their dark forms colliding with her, wrestling for control. The laughter shifted into a menacing jab, biting at her mind, each giggle a dagger, piercing through layers of confidence. Join us. Join us, they chanted, wrapping around her like a thick fog, suffocating and closing in. Ethan, Mia, you're strong. Hold on to me, she shouted, voice cracking but firm, cutting through the haze. They instinctively grasped her tighter. Yet, the darkness pressed closer, the laughter growing louder, filling the air until it felt like a weighted blanket of despair. She could feel their grip loosening, could feel a vortex of fear threatening to pull them all apart. Laura thought of the playground, the children's laughter that once filled the air with life. A bitter pang twisted in her chest. Would they truly become part of it? The laughter echoed louder, mocking, throwing her progress into disarray, draining her resolve. With one final shriek, a primal scream of defiance, she pushed against the shadows, desperate to break free. But the darkness twisted. Playtime has no end, the shadows whispered as they enveloped her. And just as hope flickered, a flash of brilliant white light surged through the darkness. Was it the dawn breaking, or was it something else entirely? A piercing cry rang out, a child's cry, urgent and filled with pain. The light pulsed, and a figure emerged from its embrace. Would it be salvation or doom? Just then, the deafening laughter stopped, leaving an eerie silence, thick as fog, a moment suspended in time. But again, the voices began, and Laura's heart dropped. The playground is hungry, you'll never leave. What had she unleashed? What awaited them all? Join us. The blinding light shimmered, casting long, ghostly shadows across the room. It flickered like a dying star, illuminating the figure emerging from its depths, a child with tangled hair and hollowed cheeks, staring wide-eyed at the chaos she'd stumbled into. Help me, the child rasped, voice filled with dread, but laced with pleading urgency. Laura's heart sank. She knew this voice. Emily? Laura stepped forward, shaking off the grip of the shadows that still quivered around her. What happened to you? Where are the others? The girl's gaze shifted, darting to Mr. Holloway, who loomed in the doorway like a storm cloud ready to break. They took us, we were playing, now they don't let us go. We were bad, Emily whimpered, tears welling in her eyes. Stop. Mr. Holloway's laughter tumbled out, boisterous and unnatural, echoing off the walls. She's not playing with you anymore, Laura. They never were. The playground feeds on despair. No. Laura's resolve hardened. She wouldn't lose another child, not again. Emily, come here. We can escape this. She reached out, her voice fierce with determination. But the shadows twisted again, thickening like fog. You can't save her. She's ours now. They hissed, a chilling sound that vibrated in her bones. This is a game you cannot win. Mom. Ethan's voice broke through the heavy silence, filled with frantic energy. Don't listen to them. With a desperate heave, Laura tried to pull the child into her embrace, but the shadows clung to Emily, clawing her back as the child's expression flickered between horror and longing. Help me. Emily screamed, dread pooling in her voice. The shadows shifted, forming grotesque shapes, erasing Emily's form until the room twisted, morphing into the ghostly playground outside. The swing swayed despite the lack of wind, and laughter echoed, haunting and ethereal. Laura fought against the creeping despair as she felt the shadows creep around her ankles, pulling her down, whispering sweet nothings of submission. "Join us, you can be free now," she screamed. It was a scream fueled by memories of summer afternoons, the laughter of her own children ringing like a symphony in her ears. "We will play no more." In a burst of strength, she lunged, dragging Ethan and Mia with her toward the door that still yawned wide and empty. But the thickness of the shadows clawed at her heart, pulling her back with tendrils of despair, each whispered promise weaving tighter around her. "Please stay with us," they sang, the voices rising in unison, growing stronger, drowning her with their cries. "Get out," Laura shouted to her children, pushing them towards the exit, her chest heaving with desperation. The shadowy forms twisted, anguished faces appearing from the dark as they pleaded, "Join us here, where you belong." "No." Laura ripped herself free, a primal roar exploding from her throat as she dashed through the door, clutching her kids protectively. They stumbled into a dim hallway filled with shifting light, but salvation felt miles away. Then came a sound, sharper than the rest, a metallic clang cutting through the air. They halted, fear cementing their feet in place. Flashing images of writhing shapes filled her mind. The playground, the laughter, it all crashed back. "Mom." Ethan's voice trembled beside her. And that when she saw it, a colossal playground slide looming at the end of the hallway, painted in vibrant colors but darker than night, as if it were alive, breathing sadness and despair. A child stood at the top, arms raised like a taunting marionette. "Come play with us." The chilling call echoed back at them. Laura's stomach churned. The flickering lights showed huddled figures at the base, shadows of other lost children waiting, lost in endless games. "Mom, we have to go back." Mia whimpered, eyes darting from the slide to the looming darkness surrounding them. The shadows began to gather again, pulling away from the door as they focused on the children. "Leave her," Holloway sneered, his voice laced with hunger, the twisted grin eager for the feast to begin. "You can't save them. The playground always gets what it wants." Something inside Laura snapped. She whirled to face the growing tide of darkness. Not today. With all her remaining will, she surged forward, holding Ethan and Mia close, intent on breaking through to whatever lay beyond. But before they could reach safety, the slide shuddered, a terrible cacophony erupting from its depths, screams mixed with laughter, the echo reverberating in the confines of her mind, blacking out her hopes with shadowy tendrils. And then, just as it seemed the light would completely extinguish, a figure burst through the playground entrance, running erratically, a child's scream resonating in the still air. "Help me." The playground was alive. The question now loomed larger than ever: who would help them first? Would it be salvation or a deeper descent into the nightmare? The air thickened, electric with terror, as the child's scream echoed through the hallway, a siren call that made the shadows recoil momentarily. Laura's heart raced, beating like a frantic drum. She turned to Ethan and Mia, their faces pale and eyes wide with dread. "Stay close," she instructed, fear weaving itself into the fabric of her voice. The figure at the playground entrance grew clearer. It was another child, a boy with tousled hair, eyes wild with panic. "Help me, please," he cried, darting toward them, arms flailing as if he could swim in the darkness without getting caught. "Wait," Laura shouted, but something sinister was already unfolding. The shadows responded, coiling around the boy's feet, dragging him back toward that wretched slide. "No." Laura lunged toward him, but Ethan grabbed her arm tightly. "Mom, don't. It'll pull you into." The boy's screams intensified, a desperate plea echoing off the walls, each terrified sound towering above the laughter that reverberated from the playground. "We can't go back. You can go back." But the shadows twisted again, taking on wicked forms, hungry for fresh souls. They buzzed and hissed, voices blending into a terrifying chorus. "Join us, be free, we play, forever we have to run." Mia pulled at her mother, tears streaming down her cheeks. But the boy, That is not a real boy. Holloway's voice dripped with sadistic joy, his silhouette looming over them like a predator. He is just another plaything. Stay and you'll see. The reality hit like ice water. These shadows twisted and morphed, feeding off fear and despair, creating puppets of the lost, an endless cycle of play that would trap them forever. Laura ripped her gaze from the boy, feeling a sickening churn inside. Come on. She pushed through the doorway, dragging her children behind her as the darkness surged, clawing at their heels. With a frantic surge of adrenaline, they sprinted into the hallway, the light flashing erratically like a heartbeat. Each step felt heavy, weighed down by dread and uncertainty. The walls closed in as the hallway distorted, bending like a funhouse mirror. But then the laughter erupted again, sharper and more sinister. It was mixed with screams, echoes of despair, and twisted joy. "Mom, where are we going?" Ethan shouted, voice cracking, as uncertainty clouded their escape. "I don't know, honey." Desperation twisted in her chest. "Just keep moving." They dashed past doors that whispered promises of safety, but each one felt like a siren's call, luring them back into the playground's grasp. The urging shadows flickered, reaching out, teasing her resolve. Another figure flickered at the edge of the light, a little girl with haunting eyes. "Help us, we want to play forever," she whispered, voice light as a feather yet heavy with purpose. Laura's resolve wavered for a moment, her mind racing. Could they really escape? Or would they end up as dark marionettes, trapped forever in the relentless games? "Don't listen," Mia cried, shaking Laura from her moment of weakness. The sound of a slide rattling began to pierce through the laughter, an ominous reminder of what lay behind them. Without thinking, Laura grabbed her children's hands tighter, urging them toward the end of the hall. Suddenly, beneath the laughter and screams, she heard a new sound. A low rumble, like thunder growing closer. "They're coming," she gasped. Racing forward, panic fed their pace. They reached a warped door at the end marked by a strange, pulsating light. Would it lead to freedom or another layer of the nightmare? But even as hope flickered, the shadows gathered again, more determined than before. "You can't escape like that. Turn back," they hissed, voices clawing at her resolve. "Mom, what now?" Ethan's voice cracked with urgency. The shadows were everywhere, swirling, hungry. Without hesitation, Laura thrust the door open, her heart pounding. A rush of cold air hit them, filled with the scent of grass and mildew. The echoes of laughter suddenly muted. They stood on the threshold, teetering between two worlds, a decision that would change everything. Behind them, laughter faded into screams, shadows churning in anticipation, bloodthirsty and impatient. "Are you ready?" Laura asked, a shiver coursing through her. And ahead lurked an unseen abyss, the choice looming large. Would they step into the darkness, or risk the playground's abode? As the shadows surged, thick and menacing, they knew the moment of truth was upon them. What would they choose when faced with the unimaginable? Cold air rushed over them like a wave, chilling their bones. Laura hesitated in that doorway, heart racing, eyes darting from the swirling shadows behind to the foggy unknown ahead. There was no going back. Not now. "Mom, please." Mia's grip tightened on her arm, her fear palpable. The shadows hissed behind them, stirring with impatience. "We can't stay here." With a final look at the darkness, desperate and hungry, Laura stepped forward. The moment her foot crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut behind them with a deafening crash. The sound echoed like a gunshot, sealing their fate. They had entered a new world, one filled with mist and obscured figures watching from the edges. The grass beneath them felt soft but damp, the ground shifting like living flesh. Distant laughter reverberated, but it sounded distorted, like echoes of little monsters. "Where are we?" Ethan whispered, wide-eyed. "I don't know," Laura admitted, her throat dry. "Stay close." As they ventured deeper into this unsettling expanse, Laura could prophesy the shadows beyond the door writhing angrily. Freedom? Or were they walking straight into another trap? She couldn't shake the feeling that the playground was only a facade, a lure masking something far darker. A wicked giggle broke the tension. They turned to see the same little girl from before, her eyes glimmering in the murk. "Welcome. We've been waiting," she chimed, her voice playful yet menacing. Laura instinctively pushed her children behind her. What do you want? She demanded. To play. The girl's grin widened, revealing too many teeth. It's so much fun. You get to play hide and seek, but the seekers are never what you think. Hide and seek? Ethan echoed, confusion evident on his innocent face. But we don't want to play. The girl laughed again, but it twisted into something darker. You can't leave until you do. It's a rule. Everyone plays. Forever shivers snaked down Laura's spine, dread clutching her heart. We're not playing anything. We just want to go home. But from the corners of the mist, shadows began to emerge, creeping figure by figure. Laura watched in horror as familiar faces of lost children formed within the haze, their eyes wide and starving. They called to her, voices overlapping, "Join us. Play with us forever." Panic exploded in Laura's chest. "Run!" She screamed and bolted, Ethan and Mia following her. The mist swirled violently, pulling at them, trying to clutch them back like clammy hands. They dashed through the unknown, the ground shifting beneath them, laughter morphing into screams once more, hungry and relentless. "Mom, there's nowhere to hide," Mia cried, her breaths coming in ragged gasps. Laura's heart raced as they rounded a bend. Ahead was a clearing, illuminated by a ghostly blue light flickering like candles blown in a haunting wind. In the center sat an old merry-go-round, rusted and twisted, a place of joy gone dark. "Maybe we can hide there." Ethan pointed, hope flickering briefly. As they approached, the merry-go-round began to spin slowly. Whispered songs of happy children echoed, but something shifted. The laughter held an edge, almost a warning. "Get on." The girl beckoned from behind them, a ghostly figure with a twisted smile. "You'll love it just as we do." In that moment, Laura felt it something sinister beneath her skin. The air turned heavy with despair. The laughter faded, replaced by the faint sound of cries that tugged at her deepest fears, a promise of eternal entrapment. "What's wrong?" Mia quivered, sensing the shift. Laura glanced at the merry-go-round and saw shadows leaping off it, morphing toward them. They were not just children, but apparitions of those trapped, playing a game gone terribly wrong. "Mom, please," Ethan begged as the shadows extended their arms, capturing the air. "Run." With a burst of energy, Laura pushed her children forward. But the shadows followed, relentless and unyielding. They needed a plan. They needed a way out. As they raced toward the light, the girl's voice echoed behind them. "You can't escape. You'll all play forever," and just as they thought they might reach safety, a thick fog enveloped them once again. The laughter crescendoed, a terrifying symphony, urging them back. Where were they headed now? Would they ever find escape from this nightmarish playground? The light flickered once more, drawing them closer to a choice, a path darker than the shadows behind. Could they outrun what lurked, or would they forever be caught in the game? The fog was thick, closing in around Laura and her children like a suffocating blanket. Panic clawed at her throat. Every step they took felt as if the ground beneath them whispered warnings, telling them to stop, to surrender. Unseen eyes watched through the mist, a heartbeat away. "Mom, I can't breathe." Mia gasped, her voice a fragile thread. "I know, sweetheart," Laura shouted, forcing her arms around her children. "Just keep moving." The merry-go-round spun behind them, whirring with an eerie rhythm, each turn pulling them back with some invisible force. Shadows flickered along its edges, dozens of hands reaching out, desperate to snatch them back into the darkness. "What do we do?" Ethan pleaded, tears glistening in his fearful eyes. "We don't stop. We can't." But how long could they run? The laughter morphed into anguished wails as the shadows crept closer, seeming to siphon away their very hope. "Mom, please. I'm scared." They dashed toward the flickering light up ahead, an oasis in the overwhelming gloom. It felt tangible, yet so far away. As they approached, the light revealed towering figures formed from smoke, almost human but distorted, their faces frozen in eternal grins. "Welcome, welcome," they chanted, their voices layered and melodic, reminiscent of a twisted nursery rhyme. "Join the eternal game. Don't be ashamed. Keep your eyes on me," Laura shouted, dragging her children along. The air was thick with despair, and she could feel the chill of hopelessness washing over them. The shadows behind them rushed forward, hunger glinting in their translucent eyes. Suddenly, the girl's voice pulled at them again. "Mommy, come play. No one wants to be left out." Shut up, Laura yelled back, her feet pounding against the ground, more instinctive than thought out. The shadows roared, a terrible sound that tore through the air, catching her breath. They reached a clearing. In the center, a vast old oak tree loomed, ancient and twisted, dripping with silvery mist. It radiated an aura of power that pulled at Laura. She could feel it in her bones. Get behind the tree, Laura urged, urgency pumping through her veins. The children huddled close as she pressed herself against the rough bark, peering around the trunk. But the shadows didn't follow directly. They flickered and danced, taunting her. The faces around the merry-go-round watched with predatory glee. Faster, Ethan whispered frantically, as the shadows encircled the clearing, cutting off their escape. A deep rumble echoed through the ground as the girl materialized again near the base of the tree, as if she had always been part of it. Her smile was a grotesque mask, eyes glinting like shards of glass. Mommy, if you don't want to be found, you can't hide. With a jolt, Laura realized the tree itself wasn't just a shelter. It was a trap. It absorbed the light, turning it into thick, cloying shadows. Run. She pushed them forward, her heart pounding like a drum. But the shadows were not just behind. They began to close in from all sides. The air thickened, choking them as specters of lost souls whispered disillusionment in their ears. You'll never escape, you'll always play desperate. Laura yanked Ethan and Mia from the tree's grasp. But the ground beneath them lurched and quivered, turning into a pit of soft earth that threatened to swallow them whole. Mommy, Mia cried, stumbling as the ground seemed to breathe. Stay with me, Laura urged, clutching them both. They needed to fight, to escape this nightmare. Then, through the tangled shadows, a glimmer the door they had come through shone faintly in the murk, a beacon of potential hope. Look, Laura shouted, desperation spurring her forward. It seemed they could reach it if they just pushed through. But the shadows surged with ferocity, grasping at their ankles, moaning with rage. The familiar voices echoed louder. Stay, play, forever. With every ounce of willpower, Laura dragged her children forward. The door was so close now, yet every step felt like walking through thick syrup. The shadows shrieked in fury, their forms congealing into monstrous shapes that lunged at the trio as they neared their escape. Run! Laura propelled them forward, the door now a mere arm's length away, when cold fingers seized her wrist, nails digging into her skin. She yelled and fought against it, fighting for every breath. Mom, don't let them take you, Ethan screamed. With a surge of reckless courage, she tore free, grabbing her children tighter. Just a foot from freedom, the shadowy girl's voice rose above all, laughter blending with the frantic cries of the other children. You can't escape. You'll all play forever. As Laura slammed her shoulder against the door, it burst open, engulfing them in a rush of deafening darkness and fading wails. But what awaited them on the other side? Was it true escape, or yet another twisted game waiting to unfold? The door slammed shut behind them, a finality echoing through their very souls. A stillness swept over the three of them, heartbeats thrumming in anxious unison. What horrors lay ahead in this new world they stepped into? The air was different on the other side, like stepping into a freezer after a long day in the sun. The sharp chill sank into Laura's bones, igniting a tender panic in her chest. She stumbled, instinctively wrapping her arms around her children, holding them close. She couldn't shake the unease that prickled at her skin. They were not done yet. Mom, where are we? Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The darkness here felt thicker, almost tangible, and Laura could hardly see beyond the small, dim sphere of light that flickered at their feet. I don't know, she admitted, peering into the void around them. Just stay with me. A gust of wind blew through the space, carrying whispers that made Laura's blood run cold. The language was incomprehensible, yet the tone dripped with malice. Each syllable wrapped around her heart like a vice, squeezing tighter with each breath. The shadows seemed to pulse hungrily, eager to engulf them. Mommy, Mia whimpered, trembling against her leg. I want to go home. Before Laura could respond, a figure stepped into view. It emerged from the thick darkness, blocking the faint light entirely. A woman, no, a creature draped in tattered remnants of what used to be a vibrant dress, her hair a tangled mess that clung to her face. Hollow eyes glared at them, a sinister smile stretching across her skeletal face. "Welcome back, dear ones," she crooned, her voice sweet yet venomous. "You've entered our domain now. Stay away from us," Laura shouted, pushing Ethan and Mia behind her. The shadows fizzled and popped around them, swirling with peals of laughter that did nothing to ease the terror crawling up Laura's spine. The woman raised her hand, revealing fingers that were long and curled, as if they had never known warmth, never known touch. "You insist on resisting, but you were always meant to play." In that moment, the room expanded, revealing walls that pulsated like living flesh. Laura's mind raced, grasping at her only thread of hope. "We want to play your games. We want to silence." The creature boomed, cutting her off. "You've already chosen to play the moment you entered." And now she extended her fingers toward them, as shadows crept closer, slinking like snakes ready to strike. Behind the ghastly apparition, the walls swirled, revealing haunting scenes of children's laughter tinged with agony, their faces warped in eternal terror. Laura felt her heart race. Each gust of laughter wrapped around her psyche like a snake squeezing tighter. "Can you hear them? The lovely children craving a friend," the woman hissed, her smile twitching. "They want company. They want you." The shadows surged forward, tendrils of pitch black wrapping around Laura's ankles, dragging her down. "Mom, no!" Ethan screamed, his eyes wide with fear, while Mia pressed her small hands against her ears, desperate to block out the sinister sounds. "You'll be one of us soon enough," the creature taunted, leaning closer until the rancid smell of decay filled Laura's lungs. "Why fight it? No, we can't." Laura fought against the inexorable pull, adrenaline surging through her as she clawed at the ground. The last shreds of her willpower ignited a spark of strength. "Hold on tight," she demanded, while reaching for the flicker of light that stubbornly pulsed in the oppressive darkness. "Don't let go." With all her might, Laura heaved Ethan and Mia toward the shimmering glow. But the shadows lashed out, biting at them, clawing for their very essence. Panic swelled in her chest. The faces in the walls were now shouting her name, echoing through her mind like dissonant music. "Play with us. Join us forever." As the children screamed and the shadows clawed deeper, the walls began to groan, and the light flickered violently. Was it a way out, or a trap of a different kind? Laura pushed forward, forming a protective shield around her children, knowing their only chance was to fight with everything they had. Together, she yelled fiercely. With each strained breath, they lunged toward the pulsing light, a sparkle of hope amidst the tempest of despair. But would it lead them further into the maw of darkness, or finally grant their escape from this horrific nightmare? Laura's heart raced as she felt the shadows tightening their grip, and she wondered if the light was truly a path to freedom or just another trick the darkness had woven for them. "Mom, please," Ethan cried, his grip slipping. Not this time. She refused to let go. But would that be enough? The moment felt like an eternity, suspended in that suffocating darkness, as the shadows clawed at Laura and her children. Every scrape and grasp sent horror coursing through her veins while the laughter grew louder, pressing down on them like a weight. "Hold on," she shouted, focused solely on the glimmering light that beckoned them like a lifeline amidst the chaos. She tightened her grip around Mia and Ethan, their tiny hands shaking, desperately searching for reassurance. "Don't look back," Laura shouted, forcing her focus ahead. "We're getting out." The air pulsed with sinister energy, the shadows hissing. "Come back. Play with us." Each cry tore through the room, mixing with echoes of laughter that twisted into shrill wails. The shadowy tendrils slithered around her ankles, clawing their way up her legs as if trying to drag her back into that nightmare. With determination, Laura pushed forward, each step draining her energy but filling her with resolve. "We want to be part of this," she screamed into the void. "We'll break free." As they inched closer to the flickering light, fragments of joyous memories surged within her. A vibrant summer afternoon, laughter at the playground, her children running free. Those images fed her strength, sparking a fire deep inside as she envisioned a world outside this prison. "Mama," Mia cried, her breathless voice like a knife to Laura's heart. "Almost there, just a bit further." Laura's heart soared with each step toward the shimmering hope ahead. The shadows strained against her, but they couldn't overshadow her love, her will to protect. But then the darkness swelled, rising like a tidal wave, threatening to engulf them. "We are your home now," it whispered maliciously, voices merging into a chorus of forgotten souls, twisting the air with despair. "No," she roared, a primal defiance erupting within her. With renewed vigor, she flung herself toward the light, pushing against the shadows with everything she had. Together, in a surge of energy, they broke free from the coils of darkness, lunging into the blinding light that swallowed them whole. The layer of despair unraveled, and suddenly they were thrust into sunlight. They fell onto grass that felt cool and soft beneath them. Laura gasped for air, the overwhelming scent of summer green filling her lungs. Ethan and Mia tumbled beside her, both gasping but alive, their eyes wide with disbelief. "Mom, are we?" Ethan began, glancing around in awe. "Yes," she breathed, laughter bubbling on the edge of her lips. "We're free." The playground was gone, replaced by the warm embrace of the late afternoon sun and the sound of cicadas buzzing in harmony. The old, sinister structures had vanished, leaving nothing but a peaceful neighborhood park before them. Children played on swings, their laughter dancing in the air. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, joy surged in Laura as the weight on her chest released. "Mommy, look!" Mia exclaimed, pointing toward the vibrant playground. The innocence of childhood returned to its rightful place, purged of darkness. Relief washed over her. They were out. No whispers, no twisted laughter. Just the simple joy of a bright summer day. Then, she spotted a small shadow moving in the distance, lingering near the edge of the trees. It looked familiar, aching with nostalgia and fear. The girl from before. The implication twisted in Laura's stomach. "No," she gasped, realizing it would never truly end, as long as there were those still trapped in memory. Ethan must have sensed her shift. "What is it?" He looked where she was staring, but the girl was gone. It didn't matter, they were safe now. "Just let us go home," Laura said, a sieve of hope pouring through her. She gathered her children in a tight embrace, feeling the warmth of their hearts beating against her. Chills crisscrossed her spine. "Never again," she swore softly under her breath. "We'll enjoy every moment, every smile, and we'll be a family again." As they walked away, the sun cast long shadows behind them, shadows filled with laughter and warmth, symbols of hope, rather than despair. Laura felt lighter with each step, her heart full of gratitude and a promise renewed to protect her family from darkness forevermore. They had escaped the confines of the playground's deceit, weaving through nightmares to reach the vibrant tapestry of life outside. This was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with love, laughter, and the resilience to face whatever haunted their past. Before long, they reached their home. With a deep breath, Laura opened the door and stepped inside, knowing that, whatever came next, they were together, fortified against the shadows that once threatened to consume them. The laughter of children filled the halls, reminding them that not all playgrounds were cursed. Some were portals to joy, and as the door closed behind them, she knew this was truly where her family belonged. Remember, there are stories waiting to be discovered even outside the confines of reality. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now. Every single click helps feed the algorithm. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild conclusion. What did you think? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see and feel this ending. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. You are the light in this storytelling journey. Join us as we unravel more tales together.